Hello again, all my star pupils, and welcome to the second class that I had planned for the birth charts and the Natal Complex. Where we left off in the first video that I posted for YouTube is going to be the start for this one. So if you all haven't seen the first video based on the astrology and the Zodiac 101, you can definitely check that out. I will link the video down below. I hope that everybody's doing well and everybody had a chance to look on my Instagram to go and look for the quizzes that I had on there, or if you were able to look at some of the books that I did recommend, you can also start there too. I'm going to break this video up into two sections. So the first section that I'm doing is the basics of a natal chart, how to access a natal chart, your personal birth chart, we call it. I'm also going to put links down below on how to actually access that information, and I'm going to do the start of the actual chart itself. In a second video that I will be posting relatively soon, I'm going to be doing the second half of the natal chart class, if you will. So I'm going to be doing both. So to start, I wanted to actually show you all what a natal chart looks like, what one is comprised of. So obviously this is how it kind of looks here. I mean, this is my own personal chart that you guys can see. And this is exactly what it looks like. So I just wanted to let you all know or to look at what a natal chart would actually look like. So I'm going to set this down just for a second so that I can kind of explain a little bit of how do you get this actual circle, all of these markings in here, and that type of thing. So natal charts, when we were talking about, in the previous video about all of the signs and finding their places, well, this is basically the blueprint, what I was referring to, of where the signs actually fit into your chart. So how do you find an actual natal chart? Well, there are a couple different things. Back in the day before, awesome technology and Google and the computer and the internet, a lot of these natal charts were done by astrologers, were done by people who, they could have been psychics, mediums. They were done by people who actually received some type of training on how to actually chart these type of natal birth charts. Natal charts are not the only type of charts that you can use for astrology. A lot of people use love charts now. They use retrograde charts. They use a lot of different charts to actually chart what is going on for your sign at any given point. The natal chart is just the most general one that we will probably be talking about for this type of class. So the natal chart, you can look on the websites right now. You can go on Google, you can go on Cafe Astrology. I will link all those sites down below. I am not affiliated with Cafe Astrology. I don't have anything to do with them. I go there because it's easy to interpret your chart. You can always reach out to someone to have your chart professionally done if that's something that you're looking to do. But these astrologers, psychics, mediums, what have you, they would use something called ephemeries to actually physically chart out someone's chart. So ephemeries, what I'd like to call, so we talked about in the last video about the blueprint, the natal complex. So ephemeries is kind of like the architect or someone who actually composes all of the dates, the times, the places in someone's chart. So that architect essentially is the astro architect. They are creating the actual natal chart. Ephemeries, if you do look it up, it is basically a huge book with vast amounts of time periods in it. It goes all the way back to the 1920s, all the way till today. And if you get a chance to look for an ephemeries book, and there are some out there, there are plenty of ephemeries out there online. My suggestion would be, if you are into this, start and get an actual Ephemeries book. They are a little bit more accurate than maybe some of the things that you might find online, because they're actually written by an accredited author, someone who has studied this for most of their life or time period. So it's better and easier to read, I think, in an actual book than it is on the internet. Ephemeries also too can tell you your specific birth date, your specific time. It basically will map out all of the planets, where all of the signs are in the planets. So for example, if you can see this, and I'm gonna like bring it up close here, maybe not my face, but if you look over here, there is what I was referring to in the last video as the planets. They're all right over here. So you have Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, okay? So these in the Ephemeries book and in your actual chart, they're going to look like these actual signs that are here. I'm going to get this really close up. I mean, you'll just still hear my voice, just not see my face. But if you can see that, you will notice that the symbols next to the words, these symbols are actually going to be seen in an Ephemeries book, or any type of Ephemeries that are found online. I will explain all of this. I just want you guys to focus mostly on this if you're looking at this. Now, the AS sign and the MC sign, we will explain those in a little bit. I just want you all to grasp that these are what the planets are going to look like in the Ephemeries. So, essentially, once you look through the Ephemeries and you can actually see that, then you can begin to actually chart your natal complex, your chart. So how that basically works is one of two things. If you're living in the computer age, like we all are, wonderful. You go on there, you type in some stuff trying to find anything having to do with a natal chart. So type into Google, natal chart, free birth chart, something to that effect. And what you have to know in order to get your natal complex or natal blueprint, I call it, is 3 important things that I mentioned in the last video. You need your date of birth, what day you were actually born. So for me, it's August 15th. You'll need the actual time of day that you were born. Now, this can be either at night or during the day, obviously. You would then need the place where you were born, not the place where you're currently living, the place where you were born. So say, like I used in the last example, the March 9th, 1979 in my previous video, and you would be the sign of the Pisces, the fish. That is something that you can use. And then say that that person was born in Dallas, Texas. They would want to use where they were born at the time, not where they could be living in Los Angeles, California right now. You want to use where you were born specifically. And there's a reason for that, because the time and the place where you were born, like we explained last time, the time and place where you were born dictates what your chart will look like. So that's very important to have. And obviously, if you don't have that information, there is things online where you can check unknown time. You can check an unknown place. You weren't maybe sure, where you were born. You can do that as well. Now, with an actual Ephemeries, that is extremely difficult to chart something on your own. If you all would like to comment down below and that's something you want me to teach you in one of these type of classes, please let me know. But for the sake of time, because that is very time consuming, I'm just going to teach you the basics essentially for your natal birth chart. I am not going to actually be charting out specifically a chart. I'm trying to keep these videos as short as I can, you guys. I mean, the last video, I was like, I don't know, hopefully you guys didn't fall asleep during that, because that was just a very long video. I'm trying to keep them like, short, because we all know, when you get talking, it's like, anyway, so I'm just trying to keep these videos short, especially the intro ones, because there's a lot of things to cover. So if you all are interested in that, again, comment down below, like, subscribe to the channel so that I can get a sense of what you all might be looking for. So going back to this chart, so we explained about the Ephemeries, we explained about where you all can look to get your natal charts. Okay, so now we have the architect who has created this blueprint, okay? Now, the first thing that I'm going to explain is that specifically in these natal charts, there are places for the planets. There are places and where they go into specific houses. There is also your ascendant and your midheaven, which I will explain a little bit more about that. But essentially, after you calculate everything of where things match up in your birth chart, it's actually pretty simple to get readings to know like where you might be going in your life, where things will happen for you. So looking at this, we're just going to start again down at the bottom. Like, I'm not going to be showing most of my face. So looking at this right now, okay, so we'll start with the sun sign that we have right here. I'm going to get real old school, you guys, and start using a pointer right there so you can see that. So for example, I was born August 15th. So as an example, my sun sign, remember I said, hello guys, remember I said about your sun sign being the leader, like kind of your group, of your astro family. They're moving in the complexes. Okay, you guys remember. So the sun right here, my sun is actually in Leo. Now, over here on the side, you guys might be confused by this. I know that I was when I first started reading charts. This right here is the degrees, okay? So just to talk about this really quickly, degrees, what that means is that in Ephemeries, if you look, okay, the architect who's building the Natal Complex, the architect basically needs specific measurements in order to measure where stuff is in the chart. So those degrees mean that there is a certain amount of time when that sign actually shifted, or when that sign actually sits into a specific house. So you could have like this, and I'm going to put this up again. You could have this sun sign right here be in Leo, like myself, and it's at 22.7 degrees, okay? So just as an example, you have the moon, my moon is in Gemini at 12 degrees, 12.29 degrees, excuse me. Yes, okay, I'm reading this correct. So then I have Mercury in Virgo at 19.10 degrees, Venus, Mars. So you guys essentially will get the point of all this. Now, I'm not going to go into the meaning of all these. That's going to be in the second part of the video in case you all are a little lost with this. I will be going into the meanings in the second part of all of this, so don't feel like that you have to know all of that right now. We are just focusing on the chart itself and then getting to the meanings in the second part. So essentially you have all of these degrees, you have all of the planets, you have all of the signs, that type of thing. So then we get to I hope you guys can see this, the ascendant and the midheaven. Okay, now ascendant is categorized as an AS, an ASC. A midheaven is categorized as an X and an MC. So the ascendant, I have an ascendant in Gemini, and my midheaven is in Aquarius. So what is an ascendant, basically? I told you all last time that you have a sun and a moon sign and an ascendant. Those three signs are very important in making up your natal chart, in making up who you are as a person. So for example, I have sun in Leo and I have moon in Gemini and I have ascendant in Gemini. So this is what I'm meaning. The sun in Leo is essentially my personality, my persona, the physical ego or the physical sense of myself, the deeper part of yourself that you portray to the world, me being as that leader. The interesting thing about it too is that if you look at any type of sun sign, you can most likely, and I'm not saying this is every case, but mostly a sun sign will most likely be in the beginning of someone's chart because that's when you start, that's when you're born. So that's kind of interesting too. That's not always the case, but sometimes that mostly happens. So the moon sign is more of your emotional nature, more of your mind, more of how you think about things, more about how you feel or react to things. So I have moon in Gemini. So just think of the sun as being the persona, the moon as being the feelings or emotions. Now your ascendant is what I'd like to call the mask that you wear to the public. That's basically your facial features, what you may look like, the way that you present yourself in public, the way that you look towards other people. It could be a style. It could be a look that you like. It could be a feeling of some kind. It could be different things like that that you present to the world. This ascendant is what you are presenting. And it functions in your chart too, because honestly, if you wanted to have any type of tarot readings, if you wanted to have any type of shifts with like retrogrades or things like that, a lot of times it's best mostly to look at your moon placement and your ascendant placement. Ascendant can also be referred to as a rising sign. So if you hear a lot of people, psychics, mediums, tarot readers, they will tell you, oh, you must have a rising sign of this. That is a cue to you that that is your ascendant. When they're talking about a rising sign, that's your ascendant. That's the mask that you wear. So say for myself, I have an ascendant in Gemini. So that would be essentially my rising sign, which would be Gemini. So that is what an ascendant basically means. Now for midheaven in a chart, midheaven is another word for determining a north node, a north and south node. Now, I could do a video about north and south nodes. It is more complex than most people realize. Your north node or midheaven is a point in your chart where you got all the signs hanging out, okay, in all these different houses in the complex. And there comes a point in your life, physically, emotionally, mentally, where you reach a certain point determined by your midheaven or determined by your north node. And that is almost like a climax of where you're reaching the end of your journey here karmically, the end of your soul journey, the end of anything having to do with that, where you basically learn karmic lessons. You learn certain lessons, or you were put on this earth for a specific reason, and your north node is a key to what that reason is. Most times also too, north nodes depict where you need to be going in this life. South nodes depict reincarnation. They depict where you were going in a past life. Now, here's the disclaimer that I'm going to throw in here. A lot of spiritual teachers, astrologers, psychics, mediums, most of them do believe in the South and Node complex. They believe in reincarnation. They believe in these type of things. Now, you may be a person out there who does not believe in that, who does not believe in reincarnation, doesn't believe in that kind of thing. And that's okay, because even for having a midheaven, you can simply look at it as this is a goal in your lifetime, in your spirit. This is a goal of where you are trying to reach in life. Now, I will also say that some people do reach that goal. Others do not, in which case your soul has a contract when it comes here, especially for this natal chart. And when the soul comes here and fulfills that north node purpose, that is a fulfillment of the soul. That is something that takes a lifetime to learn, a lifetime to adjust to. That's why the midheaven in a person's chart is very, very important, because that depicts the future of a person's life. It depicts where they could be going in the future. So that's very, very important to look at. The midheaven also too, you could reach that if you knew the meaning of what that actually meant. And a lot of people reach that in different ways. Some people don't, because they haven't fulfilled other parts of the chart. So again, the north and the south nodes, those are very complex terms, but they are in the natal chart. So I did want to explain that to all of you in case you were confused while looking at the chart. But again, I mean, everyone has to understand that this astrology goes on for years and years and years. I mean, if we spent all these videos talking about what astrology is, I mean, I don't know if you guys would get tired of hearing me. You would be here for hours, literally, with these type of videos. So again, that's why I think it's best to just break it up for now to make more sense. Now, going back to this chart, we are going to explore a little bit about the inside of this chart. So just focusing here for a moment, looking inside of this. Now I'm going to be back here. Hello guys. I'm going to be back here just using this to point so you guys can just get a better look at a better sense of what I'm talking about. Okay. So we talked about the 12 signs. You see them. They're all like chilling there. They're just like hanging out. Okay. In their respective houses. So we talked about Aries being in the first house, Taurus being in the second house, Gemini being in the third house, Cancer being in the fourth house, Leo being in the fifth house, Virgo being in the sixth house, Libra being in the seventh house, Scorpio being in the eighth house, Sagittarius being in the ninth house, Capricorn being in the 10th. There's Aquarius in the 11th, and then there is Pisces in the 12th. So you guys can obviously see the full circle, the natal complex that I was talking about, okay? Now, the houses and the meanings are in my other video, so if you all need to take a look at that, please go back and look at the first video. So that is the outside. Now we have all these small lines, as you all can see in the middle. Okay, now these small lines determine degrees. These are actual degrees. These small, I'm going to get this up closer here. I don't think you can see it. These small little lines that I'm actually pointing to with my pen here inside of this, these small lines are the degree placements in the actual chart, okay? Now we have here, if you can see this symbol, this is a symbol for Mars. So as you can clearly see, the Mars is coming over here where Taurus is in the second house, okay? Now, the Mars here is exactly 21.12 degrees. So it falls upon this line, okay? In other words. Now, you can see here this AS symbol, which we talked about was the ascendant. Now, this points straight to 10.54 degrees, and you can see the little lines, okay? Same thing with the moon here. Now, as you can look, there is also, too, all of these type of lines here. Again, you know, you have the sun sign. This little X denotes the south node in most people's charts. And again, as you can see, we're going along here. Now, you can have a situation, like I said last time, where you have 3 planets in one house right here. So you can kind of like see all of that. So that's another depiction of it, okay? Now, you guys may be asking, what is all of this in here? Like, what are all these numbers? So remember when I told you that there were 12 houses? These essentially are the house numbers here. So for example, I have Mercury and Virgo, which would be in this specific house here. So it would technically be in what they would consider the 5th house. But we know that Leo is in the 4th. Again, the other thing I did want to mention here is that a lot of times these charts may have the houses depicted in different areas. That is okay. But again, for more accurate readings, you may want to go online or have somebody actually do it for you, because again, sometimes the houses may be in different places. But it's good to just at least see it, because this is how it is on a chart. An explanation is something completely different. So in the second video, I will explain more about that. And then, of course, we have the center of the wheel, or the center of the natal complex. This is referred to as the center of the actual universe, you could say, or some depict it as the actual sun. They depict it as the earth plane. This circle is depicted a lot differently in different books depending on what you read. You have the little MC sign here that states for the midheaven. My midheaven or my north node is in Aquarius, so that is depicted right here. Now, also, I did want to talk about this chart a little bit. Some charts have this, by the way, others don't. So if you look in here, there are all these lines like going all over the place, and you're like, oh wow, like this is something, like this is a lot, right? We have lines, we have triangles, we have squares. I mean, you could be making some other shapes. I don't even know if you're making a smiley face with all this going on, but this is a lot to depict. So these triangles and squares and all the stuff that's going on in here have to do with things that are called conjunctions, trines, oppositions, squares. In the second video, I will get to that a little bit more than in this one. I just want you guys to see this, that this might be depicted in the center. Now, if you guys kind of look down here a little bit, okay, and I'm going to get this kind of in the way a little. So if you look down here, what I was talking about with the symbols of like the squares, the triangles, now there's also the conjunctions. These little stars are called sextiles. There's also sometimes a conjunction and a trine, or a conjunction and a sextile, or just a square. Those are often depicted. Everything that's going on down here shows up in here, just so that you all can kind of see that and take a look at that, okay? So that essentially is what a natal chart looks like. This is basically the depiction of most natal charts of what they will actually look like moving forward. The other thing I did want to mention is that if you are going to try to do a natal chart online and say that you didn't know the time that you were born or even the place, the only thing that you would be getting on here is pretty much this interpretation of the chart, but you would not be getting anything that is down here because this is all determined by time, place, date of birth, that type of thing. Again, you can clearly see in this picture that some of the planets, not all planets belong in all houses. This brings me to another point as well. You can get some houses that have nothing, no planets. You know, you can get houses that have very, very little in them. Like, for example, my 12th house of Pisces has nothing. My first house of Aries has nothing. My 7th house of Sagittarius has nothing. Or excuse me, 9th house of Sagittarius has nothing. My 7th house of Libra has nothing. Now, this is not a bad sign. If you don't have signs in houses, for example, or if you don't have them within certain signs, contract is what you basically sign up for in this life. But I think it's important to note that when you do come here, your natal chart dictates a lot of certain things in your life. So if your certain areas are blank, as an example, then what that means is that your soul contract, when you came here, you might not have to work stuff out as much to learn those karmic lessons or soul lessons versus if you have certain planets in certain charts, or excuse me, in certain houses in your chart. Then that means that you have to work out some karmic type of lessons. I mean, we're all here to learn. We're all on this plane to learn something. So that's basically what that means, that you may not have to learn certain lessons for that. Now, here's the other thing. That does not mean that you don't retrograde through those houses. It doesn't mean that you don't retrograde or have things passing through those houses even currently. This is just specifically for your natal chart. This is not to state that this is the end-all be-all, that you might not have a certain planet going through the house of Libra at a specific time, things like that, because again, a natal chart chart is very, very different than a lover chart, than a sign compatibility chart. There's many different charts. The natal chart is more of the blueprint, like I was explaining, or the complex, the natal complex guide for where these signs are going to be for in your chart for the rest of your life. So that's kind of where, if you don't have something in a specific house, you know, that's not a bad thing. It just means that karmically you might not need to learn that lesson at this time. Now, in part 2, in my second video, I am going to be explaining a little bit about some examples of if a planet is in a specific house, what does that mean? I'm going to also go into, you know, conjunctions, sextiles, oppositions, trines. What do those things actually mean? The other last thing I wanted to do, now the signs, there are 12 of them in total, as I explained before. They are grouped into 4 elemental groups. There is the fire element, the water element, the air element, and the earth element. Now, some people claim that there is a sulfur element. We're not going to get into that for the sake of this video. I just want to specifically talk about the elements, that because a lot of times that may be depicted in a natal chart. And then there's also 2 masculine and feminine energies. So this is my whole thing, and this is my disclaimer for this. Whatever you believe is okay. We welcome all students here. Let's just be honest, okay? Everybody's a star pupil who clicks on this video, so don't even worry about that. Masculine and feminine energies are just that. Masculine energies have certain characteristics or traits, so certain signs in your natal chart can have certain traits. Feminine, they might have some certain feminine traits. So it just all depends on where these depictions are in your chart, what they actually mean. And again, we'll get into that in the second video. But going back to the elements. So for the fire signs, you can look at it this way, and I don't know if any of you maybe have come across this. So for the fire signs, you have Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. For the water signs, you have Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio. For the earth signs, you have Capricorn, Virgo, Taurus. And then for the air signs, you have Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. The other thing I did want to mention is I am strongly considering, I posted on my Instagram about crystals. I just been called lately to maybe do a Crystal 101 video. So comment down below. Let me know if that's something that you guys think I might steer towards a little bit. I mean, listen, astrology is great and I love astrology and I know it's like a lot to learn and everything like that, but we will be coming back to some other things too. So until our next class, all my star pupils, I want you to keep it light, keep it bright, and remember keeping it, you know, Astroclassy, because that's what we do, especially in these times. And I just want you all to take care, and then hopefully I will post this video soon, and then the second natal chart complex video. But I love all of you. Thank you all to all of you who have subscribed, who have liked my account. I'm going to be putting on some really good content for you guys, and I'm just very appreciative that you've even came to visit. But again, I love you all, and thank you, and take care.